Hey everyone, I'm Nicole Kurian. I'm the legislative director over at Californians Against Waste. About us, we are an environmental advocacy nonprofit based in Sacramento, a couple blocks away from the California State Capitol, and we focus primarily on waste and recycling legislation. So here's a quick overview of the California legislative timeline which we work with. First, a legislator introduces a bill, and the bill introduction deadline was actually last Friday, so that's where bills are just introduced and they're just going to make their way through this process. And when they're introduced, they are either introduced in the Assembly or in the Senate, depending on if the member is an Assembly member or a senator. And then they move through policy and fiscal committees. And then after that, they go to the floor to be voted upon. And after they're approved by the entire floor, they move to the second house. So they switch sides. And in the second house, it goes through the same exact process. And if it is amended in the second house, it goes back to the first house to be approved one more time. And after all of that is finished, the bill passes both houses and it goes to the governor, who can do a few things. First, the governor could veto the bill, in which it dies, or the governor could sign the bill or do nothing, in which it becomes a law. And we work with 2-year legislative timelines, so that means that a bill has 2 years after introduction to pass. So this is the first year of a 2-year session, and the session will be 2023-2024. And the session ends around August or September, depending on the year. So how does our organization engage effectively? Before introduction, we think about the current political climate and what the budget looks like for the year. For example, California's budget is pretty bad this year. And we build on previous successes and analyze what went wrong in the last few years. And this means looking at trends in where the assembly members and senators have supported legislation, why they supported legislation, and what was successful. And then during session, we build coalitions of support for the legislation that we are introducing or supporting, and find how various stakeholders can benefit. So that's how we can build a broad support coalition. And then we also focus on pragmatic and equitable policy solutions. And that means that sometimes a bill can take a tiny step, and that can lead to big wins over time, but we still consider that a step forward. So just a quick overview of some legislative accomplishments that Californians Against Waste has worked on in the last session. We passed a few bills to address greenwashing. SB 343 and AB 1201 tackled greenwashing by prohibiting manufacturers from calling their products either recyclable or compostable unless they were actually likely to get recycled or composted. And these two bills became law, and they cover even how manufacturers can market their products, such as using the recycling symbol on their products or using tinting that sort of hints at a product being compostable, such as green tinting, brown, beige, and the like. And then AB 1857 and AB 881 tackled the practice of what is considered recycling. So one reclassified the practice of incineration as disposal, and one classified exporting mixed plastics to other countries as disposal as well. And these previously counted as recycling in the state. And this eliminates the incentive for these harmful practices that have had just really bad impacts on other communities. Then we also worked on a few other areas in zero waste. So we expanded the bottle bill with SB 1013, which many of y'all might be familiar with. And that includes now wine and spirits, and it will take effect in 2025. And AB 962, which added support for refillable options to the California Bottle Bill program. And then we did some bills covering electronic waste. SB 1215 created an end-of-life solution for products with batteries and added them to California's e-waste law. And then we also worked on AB 2440, which created a manufacturer-funded take-back program for loose batteries. And so pretty soon you'll be able to take your batteries to the store in which you bought them, and they'll be taken back. And then we also worked on a bill to address plastic pollution. So SB 1046 actually banned plastic produce bags unless they were reusable, recyclable, or compostable. And you'll see this bill take effect in 2025. So now on to some bills that were just introduced just the last week. most of them. And yeah. So this slide covers quite a wide range of plastics and source reduction, and the little symbol on them is just our logo, and it just means that we are sponsoring those bills. And so I'll have some details about those bills, but the rest we are just tracking and supporting, and we'll see how they move through the process. So AB 1290 eliminates problem plastics, and this bill covers a wide range of plastics. If I could check my notes. It covers PVC, PVDC, PETG, which is a spinoff of PET and contaminates loads of PET, pigmented PET packaging, and the addition of PFAS, carbon black, and oxo-degradable additives. And then AB 1347 is also known as Skip the Slip, and this requires businesses that are providing receipts to consumers to give them the option of either no receipt, an e-receipt, or a paper receipt. And if the paper receipt is provided, it has to be BPA, BPS free and not longer than necessary, which is a problem that we have obviously all encountered. And then AB 234 by Assemblymember Bauer-Cahan will ban microplastics in leave-on cosmetics to align with standards currently being negotiated in the EU. And then SB 552, this is a favorite one of mine, requires reusable foodware for dine-in and restaurants. And this will be statewide and will cover not only accessories, but also regular foodware such as bowls and plates. And then SB 378 by Senator Gonzalez bans expanded polystyrene foodware and coolers from state parks and beaches. Actually, I think this slide might be a little bit outdated, so I'm going to cover something else after this. AB 660 by Assemblymember Irwin will require streamlining expiration dates. So the FDA supports certain phrasing on expiration dates because consumers are confused by certain phrasing like sell by, which is meant for grocery stores. And so this bill will require phrasing such as use by or best by. And then AB XX, when I have an XX, that just means that the bill has just recently been introduced, and I didn't know the bill number at this time. So by Assemblymember McKinner will require washing machines to include filters for microfibers. And so actually in the realm of plastics, I'm just going to talk about something else really quickly. And that is a bill that some of y'all might be aware of that passed last year, SB 54. It was a huge plastics bill. So it's also known as the Plastic Pollution Prevention and Packaging Producer Responsibility Act. Say that 5 times fast. It is an EPR program, Extended Producer Responsibility Program, with implementation and enforcement by CalRecycle. And this bill creates a PRO, or Producer Responsibility Organization, that covers single-use packaging and plastic single-use foodware. And so all manufacturers of these covered materials have to be part of the PRO under the bill. And the PRO is required to develop a plan that's approved by CalRecycle to achieve source reduction, fund recycling and composting and source reduction infrastructure development, and they're responsible for conducting public education campaigns. And the 2 big parts of the bill are that the PRO pays for the cost of this implementation and a mitigation fee of $500 million per year over 10 years, which amounts to $5 billion. And these are the goals that must be met under 54. So expanded polystyrene, or EPS or styrofoam, has to be 25% recycled by 2025, and that slowly ramps up to 65% by 2032. And then plastic packaging and foodware needs to be recycled 30% by 2028, ramping up to 65% by 2032. And then the PRO is also required to meet source reduction of plastic packaging and foodware goals, and that ramps from 10% by 2027 up to 25% by 2032. So now on to this year again. Here are some bills that address individual products. SB 707 by Senator Newman will create extended producer responsibility for clothing. AB 1059 by Assemblymember Friedman will ban fiberglass in furniture, in upholstered furniture and mattresses. As you know, that's a health hazard. SB 560 by Senator Laird will create an EPR program for compressed gas cylinders. And AB 863 by Assemblymember Aguiar-Curry covers extended producer responsibility for carpet. Now on to some bills covering e-waste and the concept of right to repair. So SB 615 by Senator Allen will create an EV battery recycling program, and AB 2 will do the same for solar panels. And then SB 244, which is a bill that we are sponsoring with a couple of other organizations, will mandate right to repair for consumer electronics. So this bill will require manufacturers of consumer electronics to provide the service literature, the diagnostic information, and the parts to consumers and to third-party repair partners, so that the cost of repairing your stuff goes down, and there is a heavier market for repair. And then SB 271 applies the same concept, just to powered wheelchairs. And then some bills covering toxics, emissions, and incineration. So AB XX by Assemblymember Irwin covers landfill methane leaks and will require a system of monitoring and addressing them. And then AB 1705 by Assemblymember McKinner will create setback zones or health protection zones from newly built incinerators. And then SB 414 by Senator Allen will disincentivize the purchase of artificial turf containing PFAS, and AB 246 will ban PFAS in menstrual products. And lastly, we are working on continuing to expand and improve on the California bottle bill. SB 535 by Senator Dodd will expand the bottle bill to 46-ounce or larger juice containers, and then also adjust the way that processing payments are calculated, which should help local recyclers that benefit from those calculations. AB 891 by Assemblymember Irwin will also create a non-binding policy goal, so that this is not going to be law, but it establishes a policy goal within statute, and this is to support non-petroleum material in plastic bottles. And that's all I have for you. That was quite a lot of bills. If you're interested in, if you have any questions, this is our website. The QR code is for our website. And then you can also visit leginfo.legislature.ca.gov to just look up any of these bills and track them yourself if you're interested.